Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gaming News, where we cover everything within the gaming industry. Sometimes that's tabletop, most of the time that's video games, and we have a lot of things to cover today, so let's just jump right into the topics. First up, we have Sony, who has decided to put on a showcase yesterday, which covered a lot of games that are coming out, like Gran Turismo 7, which I'm super excited about. We talked about Horizon Forbidden West. They talked about a couple of new IPs that seemed interesting. Of course, there were a lot of people that were talking about the Old Republic getting a revamp. There was Uncharted series that will be coming to PC and also being sort of remastered, which I'm also really excited about, and just a whole bunch of different titles. The conference for PlayStation was about an hour long, and a lot of people are really excited about a lot of the games. Of course, there are always the naysayers that are like, oh, this was boring and whatnot, but that's what happens when studios decide to do their own showcases individually. It has sort of less overall impact if people are not that enthused about the developer or the platform that is putting on the showcase. So if you're not really a Sony or PlayStation fan, it makes sense that maybe the lineup was not very exciting for some of those people. But I did see a couple of titles that I was really excited about, and one of those titles, there was some news earlier on in the week that while people may be excited about the title, you may want to know this first. And what I am talking about here is this. This is what we are talking about at the current moment in time, which is that Sony is going to charge $10 for the PS4 to PS5 game upgrade for Horizon Forbidden West. Now, this is obviously important to a lot of people who are really excited about this because they had published on their blog that they were announcing various editions for Guerrilla Games title, and as a footnote, they also said that players purchasing the deluxe collectors or regala editions would be able to upgrade a PS4 copy to a PS5 for free, with people who bought the standard and special editions needing to pay a fee. Now, this is kind of interesting news to consider. So if you're looking at getting Forbidden West on the PS5 and you were hoping to get it as a free upgrade, maybe consider looking at the higher editions, the digital deluxe or the collectors or something, where you're going to get more things as opposed to maybe paying that fee in order to have like a very good experience and good purchase decision. But still, it's the general idea that this, I think, is the first time that a platform has decided they are going to charge you extra if you have the regular to upgrade to current gen content. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with it. I mean, I guess it makes sense in the grand scheme of things that if you're going to upgrade from previous gen to be able to have the latest generation of the game, that there would be some kind of processing or whatnot that would go through it. But if you have a digital copy, or even if you don't have a digital copy, if you have a physical copy, one, I don't think that you would be able to necessarily upgrade unless you just simply trade in the game and buy the one for PS5. But still, It's interesting that this is the route that Sony has gone, especially considering that a lot of their titles they want to do exclusives and that they're not willing to share necessarily with other places like PC and with Xbox and whatnot, where Xbox has their Game Pass, Sony does not seem to want to play nice with others. I feel like they're kind of missing the ball a little bit in that this isn't exactly what gamers are looking for when it comes to the latest and greatest. If you're already going to make it so that people have to have a PlayStation to play any of the PlayStation titles, especially obviously exclusives, by then charging your people more, your fan base more to get, the newest game, kind of feels like a kick in the teeth. And I don't know if I feel like this is a very good move for PlayStation. So I leave it up to you what you think about this. I will link, obviously, the article below so that you can take a look at the rest of the information. But I know I'm really excited for the next Horizon game because it's a fun and interesting game, and I like the aesthetic. I like how it plays. I did really enjoy it, and I would love to have the opportunity to actually play more of it. So maybe in the future I will get it for the Switch or something and play it at my other half's place, but we'll see. Next up, we have not so great information. So a while back, I had talked about the fact that Activision Blizzard's active lawsuit against the sexual predators and harassment and discrepancy in pay structure was going to snowball into a lot of other companies. I was not joking that that was going to be a thing. We've seen more with Riot, with Ubisoft, with a whole bunch of other companies, and here we go with Paradox also stepping into the ring, where an employee survey at Paradox Interactive alleges gender discrimination and mistreatment. And I've got to say, I'm again not surprised, and it hurts that it's Paradox because I love virtually everything that they put out when it comes to their IPs. And of course, I'm not going to say that the entirety of Paradox is bad because obviously there are employees that are amazing people and they're incredibly skilled. But this just is illustrating the point that other game companies also suffer from the problems that Activision Blizzard does. And this just pushes forward the idea stating that firing one CEO or president of a company was not going to change anything, that it would take an entire overhaul of the gaming industry to address these issues, and for not only women to stand up for themselves and to stop this stuff from happening, but for guys to also step in and say, hey, this is not acceptable, and do what they must to make sure that their co-workers feel safe and comfortable in their environment. But this article goes on to say that the survey that was conducted back in August claims that 44% of 133 employees who took part have experienced mistreatment at the company. That is a very high number, and that is disturbing to say the least. You're not talking about one or two apples here. You're talking about almost half the company. That is about 60 employees that are mistreating others in the company. And considering that Paradox employs over 400 people and that women make up 26% of employees, and that well over half, almost 3/4 of the female employees are being abused by their coworkers. And that is disgusting. But then it goes on to talk about a culture of silence at the firm, with almost zero employees feeling as though their treatment has been handled appropriately. This is not a good look for any company, and things hopefully will start changing as people realize more and more that this is not acceptable behavior, and that there will be recourse in a lot of these cases. And it's not just Activision Blizzard that's being sued over their allegations, but I really do feel like there are going to be more lawsuits for a lot of these AAA companies who are mistreating their employees. And that is good because it forces the industry to change and to become better, but that does not mean that it's going to be an instantaneous fix. The court process takes a couple of years anyways, plus there's still a lot going on with COVID and different restrictions and that kind of thing, that it's going to take time before we see the results of all of these lawsuits, of all of the people being called out and perhaps being fired or needing to compensate the people who have been wronged by their mistreatment and that kind of thing. So we'll have to keep an eye out on all of these allegations coming out and all of the potential lawsuits that are coming out. But I really do feel like there's going to be more and more reports similar to this about mistreatment of employees and what people aren't doing about it. It was just inevitable that because of the internet, because people are sick and tired of being treated like shit, they are stepping forward and they are finally talking, and they're finally less afraid to say things when it comes to this subject. And I am all for people standing up for what is right, and I don't want to see any of these game companies fall as a result. I'm hoping that what happens is the people who are the bad apples get kicked to the curb, and that new people come in and foster better communities, better working environments, and that the gaming industry will actually elevate from that point moving forward. So I will keep an eye out on this because, again, I love Paradox and I definitely don't want to see them fall because they've got a lot of amazing titles that I play a ton of, but who knows? We'll see what happens in the future. While we're on the subject of harassment and mistreatment of people, especially when it comes to minority groups, there has been some developments. We, in previous videos, discussed the idea that there are hate raids on Twitch and how they're awful, how they suck, how it is difficult to moderate, how all of these users continue to pop up, and that supposedly Twitch is doing nothing. And now we have some articles to show that Twitch is actually trying to work on things. So here is an article published by Wired earlier on the 10th, stating that Twitch sues users over alleged hate raids against streamers. The lawsuit accuses two anonymous users of targeting Black and LGBTQIA+ streamers with racist, homophobic, sexist, and other harassing content in violation of its terms of service. It goes on. Since early August, it's been longer than that, I hate to break it to you, Twitch has been wrestling with the epidemic of harassment against marginalized streamers known as hate raids. These attacks spam streamers' chat with hateful and bigoted languages, amplified dozens of times by bots. On Thursday, after a month of trying and failing to combat the tactic, Twitch resorted to the legal system, suing two alleged hate raiders for targeting Black and LGBTQIA plus streamers with racist, homophobic, sexist, and other harassing content in violation of its terms of service. We hope this complaint will shed light on the identity of the individuals behind these attacks and the tools that they exploit dissuade them from taking similar behaviors to other services and help put an end to these vile attacks against members of our own community, a Twitch spokesperson said in a comment to Wired. Harassment based on gender, race, and sexuality is not new to the 10-year-old game streaming platform. However, over the last month, targeted hate raids have escalated. Marginalized streamers receive derogatory messages, sometimes hundreds at a time, like this channel now belongs to the KKK. To raise awareness of the hate raids and pressure Twitch to act, thousands of streamers have banded together under hashtags like Twitch Do Better and A Day Off Twitch, a one-day boycott of the service. Now, the Day Off of Twitch was successful for the people who participated, and in terms of the overall numbers to Twitch, it did make a small dent in user viewership, and there was a lot of controversy when it came to a lot of the big name streamers talking about the hate raids or participating in the Day Off Twitch, but it was largely successful. And I believe it was something that Twitch was mindful of when they were looking to implement tags. So while the tagging system has definitely helped to give visibility to people, it has also made them targets, which is what Twitch was hoping not to have happen. And that is why they had put out the tag sort of as a hesitant action, because so many people were jumping down their butts to include tags, and it was questionable when it came to their timing. But I do believe that they were thinking correctly when they wanted to hold off on it, to maybe provide more tools or better tools to prevent this kind of thing from happening. So I'm glad that Twitch is suing people who have initiated a lot of these hate raids, and hopefully it will reduce these from happening on Twitch. But unfortunately, as a person that moderates in a number of different channels, I still see bots popping up all the time that just add a character or add a couple of digits, and they just keep coming back, and it is very difficult to keep up with the number of accounts that appear who are trying to bot all of these channels. And I just hope that Twitch actually manages to find a solution to help streamers not become targets of awful, hateful messaging from stupid bots. But also, in, I suppose, better news for Twitch, we have an update to the ad system. I do not have this on my channel as of yet. I am an affiliate on Twitch, but you're now going to be able to set the amount of time between ads, and hopefully it will now give you a notification when an ad is about to happen. So it gives people a little bit more control over having ads on their channels, which was really an inevitable thing, but it's going to allow you to add spacing. So this is actually a slider bar that you can move where the ad is going to be. It allows you to warn yourself or snooze ads, and it's ultimately a good thing for Twitch's sponsors for content creators to make a little bit more money. Yes, as an affiliate, you make pennies literally, depending on how many subscribers you have based on the ad revenue. But if they have a way to actually incentivize people more to use ads on their channels and to actually warn you when things are coming, then you can actually have planned breaks where you can go and grab some snacks, go to the washroom, hydrate, move around, to do healthier things when you're doing an 8-hour stint or 12-hour stream or something like that. I'm not fully against this. I feel like allowing us to know when an ad is going to occur will give us a better chance of compensating for it and letting viewers know that it's happening. And while we may not yet be able to control what types of ads are shown on our channel, at least we'll get to somewhat control when they happen. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Overall, I feel like Twitch is on a bit of a good upward trend right now. If they are successful in suing the culprits for the hate raids, great, and allowing affiliates and partners to have a little bit more flexibility with ads, also a good thing in my opinion. Okay, so the next topic is about Tripwire. If any of you have been paying attention to Twitter at all during the week, you will know that in the world outside of video gaming, Texas passed a new law that basically forbid its citizens from getting an abortion if they have been pregnant for more than 6 weeks. And there was a lot of backlash against this. I myself was not a big fan of the decision made by Texas, and I am incredibly glad that I do not live in Texas because fuck that. But what that created was a person working for Tripwire who is able to go onto social media through the Tripwire account, tweeting in favor of said decision in Texas, and it was met with so much backlash that the company themselves had to step in and make a statement stating that they do not agree with the person who used social media to talk about said decision in Texas, and that people were free to make their own decisions and that they were not going to, discuss it further. So this prompted a couple of things, like this tweet. If any Tripwire employees want to talk anonymously about their feelings on John Gibson for a story, feel free to DM me for my Signal, an encrypted messaging service that is locked down and safe. After that, in 5 minutes of research, it's become clear that Tripwire president John Gibson put his own Christian metal band in Killing Floor 2, which is one of Tripwire's games, including the song Disunion Reconstructed, which features these lyrics, and he posts screenshot to these lyrics and said that there were a lot of clues about John Gibson's viewpoint and mentality already, and they were actually incorporated into the Killing Floor 2 game by way of his own band and by way of lyrics. So then after that, because of the massive backlash, Jason Schreier then put out a tweet. Tripwire Interactive CEO John Gibson is stepping down following severe backlash against his tweet supporting the Texas law that bans abortion after 6 weeks and deputizes private citizens to sue anyone who aids in the procedure, the company says. His comments disregarded the value of our whole team, our partners, and much of our broader community. Our leadership team at Tripwire Schreier are deeply sorry and are unified in our commitment to take swift action and to foster a more positive environment. And then he links to the full story. Now, I am incredibly glad that Gibson stepped down. He obviously just ruined his entire reputation. I don't know how much time you have to spend on Twitter before you realize that making such ridiculous, insane statements like that are going to get you a following. You get your 15 seconds of fame and then you're fired. And it has been shown time and time again that Twitter will not stand for this kind of behavior, and it doesn't matter what you personally believe or whatever. You do not use a platform like a game company to make a ridiculous statement like that and expect to get away with it. So I am glad that he is gone. And I do hope that changes are made when it comes to Killing Floor 2 and any of their other IPs. I am glad that they made a statement stating this isn't proper and that the CEO left from the company. So, yay, good riddance. And that's pretty much what I've got to say on that subject. Next, we have information about Epic Games. So, as you know, Epic Games entered into a lawsuit against Apple because of Fortnite and how Apple was forcing people to pay for their V-Bucks through the Apple Store, which allowed them something like a 30% cut from the profits of pretty much every sale. And considering that Fortnite is a free-to-play game and that Epic wanted to provide other payment options other than being forced into the Apple Store, they initiated a lawsuit against Apple. Now, there's all kinds of information about it. You can go and look it up, but I wanted to cover a couple of things regarding that. So this is the first instance of this happening. Where Apple can no longer force developers to use in-app purchasing, judge rules in Epic Games case. And then there was another person, judge in Apple Epic issues permanent injunction against Apple. Developers now allowed to direct customers to other payment systems. Story coming. And then The Verge published an Epic article stating that Apple must allow other forms of in-app purchases, rules judge in Epic versus Apple. So the judge issued a permanent injunction against the Epic and Apple case on Friday morning, putting new restrictions on Apple's App Store rules and bringing months of bitter legal jousting to a conclusion. Under the new order, Apple is permanently restrained and enjoined from prohibiting developers from including in their apps and their metadata buttons, external links, or other calls to action that direct customers to purchasing mechanisms, in addition to in-app purchasing and communicating with customers through points of contact obtained voluntarily from customers through account registration within the app. In short, iOS apps must be allowed to direct users to payment options beyond those offered by Apple. The injunction is scheduled to take effect in 90 days on December 9th, unless it is enjoined by a higher court. In a separate judgment, the court affirmed that Epic Games was in breach of its contract with Apple when it implemented the alternative payment system in the Fortnite app. As a result, Epic must pay Apple 30% of all revenue collected through the system since it was implemented, a sum of more than $3.5 million. In the full ruling, the judge explains her thinking on the issue in greater detail. Notably, the judge rejected both parties' definition of the marketplace at issue in the case. The relevant market here is digital mobile gaming interactions, not gaming generally, and not Apple's own internal operating systems related to the Apple Store. Under that market definition, the court cannot ultimately conclude that Apple is a monopolist under either federal or state antitrust laws, she continued. Nonetheless, the trial did show that Apple is engaging in anti-competitive conduct under California's competition laws. This is important for a lot of reasons. Because it basically means that while Epic did win the idea that Apple should not have a monopoly over all purchasing for anything they allow on iOS, it means that also Epic will have to at least pay for everything up to the lawsuit beginning, and possibly even some of it up until the date of judgment, which would be today. And that is obviously a significant amount of money. But the important thing too is, because Apple initiated this 30% and that you had to use Apple's system in order for them to make hand over fist in terms of money, it makes Apple very anti-competitive, and now is stating that we are going to allow you to make purchases through the marketplace without using specifically Apple's system. So it's kind of a win here, because it means that Apple is not continuing to monopolize the market in terms of any game that is on iOS. But Epic also kind of lost out a little bit, because both of them didn't fully understand the definition of the digital marketplace, and now there is rulings to discuss the fact that this is how it is, this is the judgment that I am making, and unless a higher court comes in and vetoes it or changes it, which is entirely possible, Apple can appeal to a higher court, it at least helps a lot of the player base, the fan base, to make purchases through things other than through the Apple Store. So overall, I think it's a win. Next up, we have information about Titanfall 2. Now, it is the last thing that I have to discuss, and that is Titanfall had some very interesting tweets go out by users in the last few days, basically alleging the fact that Titanfall 2 had some kind of mod or something in the programming of the game that was being downloaded to a lot of people's computers and infecting all of their computers. Respawn didn't know anything about the topic at first. There were a lot of rumors based on this, a lot of coincidence that were discussed with this particular situation. And after going through some stuff, we now find out that on the 8th, there was some clarification by this person, Leon, who said the temporary buffer that Titanfall uses for game invites has a size cap. If the decoded username of the person who invited you is larger than that size cap, it'll start overwriting random memory to store the name. Once it gets outside of that specific temporary buff, though, your PC starts treating it as executable code instead of a username. And because that is directly on your computer, it could potentially run any program, including malware, on your computer. Some people have already confirmed that the game actually does this. While we definitely need more proof, this is a really big security issue, and it's better to expect a worst case scenario. So what this meant is that a lot of people were urging Titanfall 2 players to delete the game and uninstall the game from their computer to combat the fact that there was potentially malware being initiated on their computer systems. And then Following that tweet, Respawn finally put out a thing saying we are aware of reports of a security vulnerability affecting Titanfall 2 and are investigating. We have no other information to share at the moment, but will update once we do. Then they updated, we're still investigating this issue, but our engineers believe that we're dealing with a simple exploit that can be used to crash games. We do not believe there are any more serious risks to affected players or their machines. We'll update again as we learn more. And then finally, our team has shipped an update to address the game crashing exploit. We found no evidence of any more serious vulnerabilities. We'll keep an eye out for further issues, but consider this one to be closed. So, with that, hopefully, whatever the actual issue was ended up being resolved, because if there was coding to allow executables to just be launched. And unfortunately, I don't know what the heck was happening with this Titanfall 2 situation, but they appear to have fixed it, so good for them. And I hope that nothing else like this ever happens in the future, because that has a lot of very bad implications. That's all I have for everyone today. I apologize it went a little bit longer because we had a bunch of things to talk about. But as always, thank you so much for being part of Patreon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share information with people that I'm doing these videos. I want more people to be aware of some of these things and to start a conversation. And with that, you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.